If you're standing in front of the ceiling, wondering whether spending a few $100 on an in-ceiling speaker will actually make a difference in your home theater, I get it. You don't want to gamble on a pricey unit that ends up sounding like any other box on the wall, and you're probably afraid of a complicated install that turns your DIY weekend into a nightmare. The biggest question is simple: does this speaker actually deliver the kind of immersive audio you expect from a high-end home theater, without demanding a professional installer or blowing your budget? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When I started looking at in-ceiling speakers for a medium-sized living room, I narrowed the field to a handful of names that promised cinema-quality sound. The Klipsch THX-5002-L stood out because it carries both the Klipsch brand reputation and a THX Ultra 2 certification, something you usually see on larger floor-standing units. That certification is a formal acknowledgement that the speaker meets strict criteria for frequency response, distortion, and overall performance in a calibrated theater environment. For a ceiling installation, that tells me the company expects the unit to handle the sort of dynamic range you get from movie soundtracks, not just background music. First, let's talk about who this thing is really for. If you already have a surround sound system and you're looking to fill an empty ceiling spot, say, the front left or right channel in a 5.1 setup, this speaker makes sense. The dual 5.25-inch Cerametallic Woofers give you enough low-mid punch to blend smoothly with a subwoofer, and the 1-inch titanium tweeter adds the crispness you need for dialogue and high-frequency effects. It's a solid match for anyone who has a receiver that can drive multiple channels and wants to keep the listening area clean and unobtrusive. On the flip side, if you're a minimalist who only wants stereo sound or you're planning a modest Bluetooth speaker system, you'll probably be better off with a simpler pair of wall-mount speakers. The THX-5002-L is overkill for a basic music-only setup, and the installation demands more attention than you might be comfortable with. Installation is where many ceiling speakers trip up new owners, and the THX-5002-L tries to make that part less painful. The design includes a streamlined installation approach, a rectangular frame that slides into a pre-cut opening, with mounting brackets that lock the speaker in place. In practice, this means you don't have to wrestle with a tangled wire harness or worry about the speaker slipping after you mount it. I ran the numbers on a typical 12 by 12-inch cut, which is the minimum recommended opening size, and the speaker sits flush with the ceiling after you secure the brackets. The maximum installation reliability claim holds up when you follow the included instructions. Just make sure you have access to the attic space or a drop ceiling that can accommodate the depth of the chassis. Now, let's get into the everyday listening experience. The biggest practical strength that shows up in real-world use is the breadth of the soundstage. Because the two woofers are positioned side by side, you get a wider dispersion pattern than a single-driver unit. In my own testing, that translated to smoother transitions between the left and right channels when watching an action film. No noticeable hole in the middle of the room where the sound seemed to disappear. The titanium tweeter, a hallmark of Klipsch's horn-loaded approach, delivers a focused high-frequency response that keeps dialogue clear even during the loudest explosions. For a home theater enthusiast who wants to feel like they're sitting in a mini-cinema, the speaker delivers that immediacy without the need for a massive floor-standing tower. On the downside, the THX-5002-L's performance does depend heavily on placement. Because it's a ceiling-mounted unit, the angle at which sound projects down into the listening area can be a bit steep if you mount it too close to the front wall. This can cause the bass to feel a little tight in the lower frequencies, particularly if your room lacks adequate acoustic treatment. That's not a flaw in the speaker itself, but it does mean you'll need to be mindful of where you install it, ideally centered above the primary listening position and with a clear line of sight to the front speakers. Another practical weakness is the power requirement. While the unit can be driven by a typical 8-ohm, 70-80 watt amplifier, you'll notice the best dynamics when paired with a more capable receiver that can deliver at least 100 watts per channel. If you're running a modest, older receiver, the speaker may sound a little restrained compared to a more robust amp. The value proposition becomes clearer when you compare the THX-5002-L to other in-ceiling options from competing brands. Many rival speakers market themselves on easy install but either sacrifice driver size or use cheaper materials that limit dynamic range. The Klipsch model, by contrast, Uses Cerametallic Woofers, an alloy that combines ceramic stiffness with metal's lightweight properties so the drivers can move quickly and accurately, which is essential for the fast transients you hear in modern soundtracks. The titanium tweeter adds a level of detail.